Not him tracking her by the puss juice.
He's like, and then he stabs her in the shoulder. She's like,
I don't know. It's not looking good for the incest part. So,
welcome to the first reading vlog. I was going back and forth between whether or not I wanted to do a reading vlog over Haunting Adeline or Quicksilver. If you're voting for Haunting Adeline, don't worry, because I'm probably still gonna do that, but I'm kind of in a reading slump right now, and I fear that if I read Haunting Adeline, it will just send me further down that path, and I would really like to come out of it. So for that reason, I will not be reading Haunting Adeline today. But we are gonna try Quicksilver. I've seen this a lot on TikTok, but I just saw on Goodreads where there's only 15,000 ratings. There are 14,000 people currently reading it and 65,000 people who want to read it. So that's pretty popular in my opinion. This is on Kindle Unlimited right now, so you can read it for free there if you have that. I guess not for free, you paid for Kindle Unlimited, but don't really know too much about it. All I know is that I guess it's a romantasy. I know she's got some powers. I think there's a lot of different kinds of creatures, like vampires, maybe fae. I know there's definitely fae. She talks to death in this. That's pretty cool. I don't know. We're just gonna like give it a little shot. We're just gonna see what's going on. There was a wasp in my house earlier and I couldn't find it for a really long time, and now I'm hearing it, I think, again. I may need to scope it out. No signs of the wasp. That's really good. So, fantastic. All right, now let's read. We got a little pronunciation guide, okay? Saeris, Rusarius, Talladaius Nights. That's stupid. Okay, little update. I'm about on page 54 currently. Let me just catch up to speed with what we got going on currently. So they live in like a sandy terrain, sandy desert, and I think their society is kind of set up where it's like a circle with a bunch of spokes, and then each spoke is its own ward, kind of like Hunger Games a little bit. The wards are like districts. It's more like circles. And then the inside of the circle is like the capital where the rich people live. Our main character, Saeris, she lives in the 3rd ward. There is a plague disease there called the rattles. You know, ideally it would be named something better, but that's what we're working with. The story opens up with her running away from a guardian, which is like the Queen's Knights. I think because she's trying to steal something, like she's a thief. And he's like trying to stop her, obviously. And she's like kind of snarky about it. She's very quippy. He like asks for her name and she gives him a fake name. And she's like, I'm not going to tell him that he has the Saeris Fane in his grasp. So we know that she's like a little notorious. Like people know about her. We find out that her mom was killed by a guardian. So interesting. Her dad is also dead, but we don't know how, I believe. Her current guardian is this like glass maker, and I think he's just like a family friend, and like a lot of his family has been killed by the guardians. So the government is corrupt. What government isn't? Anyway, she's in this kerfuffle with the guardian. He asks for her name, she gives her the fake name, and he's like, what ward are you in? And she's like, 3rd ward. He's like, oh my god, you have the rattles there. He doesn't say that, but it's like he's like shook because most people from the 3rd ward don't leave the 3rd ward, and so he's never even met anyone from there. I don't really remember how this happens, but I think she like is touching him and stuff, and he's like gross, and he like takes the gauntlet off. They're all in like solid gold armor, like they're decked out like knights, and so he takes it off. Let me check on that actually, because I'm like, wait. Oh no, he does take them off. That is really goofy. Anyways, because he's like, ew, you're plagued. and gross. I'm going to take off my armor, throw it on the ground. Not quite sure what he was trying to do here. Don't know if he was like going to hope nobody grabs it and then, or hope nobody's dumb enough to grab it and then get some disinfectant, clean it, put it back on. Like, not sure what his plan was for the sanitization of this armor. Anyway, she scoops this gauntlet. She's like trying to escape and he's like, get back here. And then she's like running away. She's got to climb up the wall because I guess the wards are like walled off to the center part. She's like trying to climb up this wall and he's like, we're gonna get you. And she's like, heh. As she's trying to get away, she's like touching the sand. The sand starts vibrating. This is when we see like the first glimpse of her powers. And the sand is like, oh, she feels us. She knows we're there. And then quartz starts rising from the sand. It's giving metal detector vibes. So anyways, she like makes it stop vibrating somehow and then takes the gauntlet, runs home to the glassmaker, Elroy, her guardian, kind of. Even though she's 24, so I guess she doesn't really need a guardian. I don't know what like the adult age is in this society, but that's like her family now. Because her whole family's dead, except she has a brother. She goes to this glassmaker and is like, hey, look what I got. And he's like, are you literally insane? That is going to fuck us up. They are going to come and they are going to slaughter us all because you took this gauntlet. And she's like, shut up. And she's like, we were hungry, we needed it. The gold to like trade to get food. He's like, you're whack, but what can I do? Like, you're gonna force this on me. And she's like, yep. And then she's like, where's my brother? And he's like, oh, probably doing stuff he shouldn't. And so she knows that he's probably at this tavern. I came here to blow off steam, to fuck, to fight. I hate it. It's so bad. Couldn't even get past that last page without having to stop again. So I'll read it for you. Carrion Swift. What? Taylor Swift, the most notorious gambler, cheat, and smuggler in the entire city. He was also uncommonly good in bed. The only man in Zilvaren who'd ever made me scream his name out of pleasure rather than frustration. He talked me out of my underwear, perhaps the greatest heist ever performed in Zilvaren, and people hadn't stopped talking about that for months. Literally not even 10 pages ago, they were talking about how everybody is starving in this city. But you know what they're concerning themselves with? The sex lives of these two people. They may be starving to death. They may be wondering where their next meal is from, but they are also gossiping about this guy and this girl having sex. I'm not sure where on like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that like falls. Like ability to gossip, like how far up do you have to be to discuss that? A carry-on Swift. That sounds like a luggage. Like, is that a luggage brand? The Swift Carrion? Carrion? Like, I don't know how to say it. I'm sure it's not Carrion, but that's the only way I can, like, picture it in my head. And so she goes to the tavern, sees him outside. He's, like, laying on the ground, bloodied, beaten. And she's like, what did you get yourself into? He was gambling, and then this guy. That's where she meets Carrion Swift, because he was there. She gives the gauntlet to her brother because she's like, I don't want him trying to, snatch this from me. She gives her back to her brother, but she doesn't tell him what's inside. He's outside because he got kicked out of this tavern. She's inside talking to Carrion, and he's like, I heard that a raven-haired girl stole a gauntlet from a guardian. And she's like, huh, who could that be? And he's like, surely this girl wasn't so stupid to, like, bring it here, And if this girl needed a hiding place, I would give her one because, they like... So he, likes her. Even though he's a villain, of course. She's like, okay, oh, now that he said I should not have brought it here, I will listen. But when it was Elroy telling her, she was like, I'm not hearing that. And so she leaves the tavern after like getting her brother's stuff back from the brawl, and he's gone. And she's like, oh fuck, okay, where is he? Surely he didn't look inside my bag. She sees guardians, a bunch of them running, and she's like, I gotta go check this out. She eventually gets to the guardians, and they have her brother. He's freaked out. He's like, help me please. Saeris somehow is like a ninja. She can fight super well. She can take on these guardians who have been training for 18 months. And she just has a knife. And she knifes them. She like takes them down. She kills a couple. She like cuts this guy's hand off. Pretty crazy. Kind of cool. But it's also really unbelievable. She was trained by just some rebels that her mom was hosting, which is why her mom was killed. So that's how she knows how to fight. Because they taught her how to fight. The guardians have now taken her to the palace and like locked her up. So yeah, those are my updates currently. Now we're on chapter 4. So I will get through a couple more, come back. So yeah, peace out. Okay, little updates. So after that whole thing, she was taken to the palace, to the dungeon, obviously. And then the captain of the guard, he comes and gets her. They're like walking to wherever they're going to meet with the queen so she can like... So, but then as they're walking there, she's like telling him about how horrible it is living in the third. And he's kind of like defending the queen. But there's also this air of like, okay, he knows that it's messed up, but what is he gonna do about it? They get to this weird place. It's like locked. It's got a lot of columns. It's a weird room, okay? And in the middle, there's like this lever looking thing. In my head, it was like the Chamber of Secrets vibe. And there was like a lever in the middle. But she's like, oh, that is not a lever. That is a sword. She feels called to this sword at the end of the room. It's like taking her a lot of focus to focus on the captain and not the sword. So she's like really trying. So then the queen comes in. We learn that she's immortal. That's kind of cool. She wants to know how Saeris learned how to fight so well that she killed 2 guardians. Because, like we mentioned earlier, for her to be able to take on 2 guardians that were trained extensively for like a year and a half with the best trainers, she's like, how is it possible that this like rat from the 3rd ward killed 2 of them? So we all were thinking it was sus. And she was like, was it the Fae? I bet the Fae trained you. I know they trained you. So fess up. I need to know the deets of what's gonna happen. Saeris is like, this lady has lost her marbles. So I'm not really sure what to do with that. I'm just gonna entertain this whole Fae thing. Maybe it'll like buy me some time. And so she's like, yeah, I told the Fae to like kill you. And she's like, huh, interesting. I wonder how they would kill me because I'm immortal. So you can see logistically how that's not making sense to me. And she's like, okay, yeah, got it. The queen is like, I was kind of excited because I thought something cool was happening today. Thought the Fae were doing some stuff, but I think you're just a liar. She's like, okay, guard, just kill her. I'm done with this. Like, let me hear her scream, you know? I need some music. So she leaves, and he's like, sorry. Because, you know, they built a little friendship whenever she was telling him about how horrible it was to live in the third. And so he stabs her in the stomach, twisting it around, doing a little Void Styles moment. She's like, and then he stabs her in the shoulder. She's like, we're really giving the queen, you know, some entertainment. And he's like, okay, I need one more scream, and then I will kill you. Be grateful, because most people, they don't get this nice treatment. So anyway, you know, she commands metal. You would be wondering, hey, why did you get stabbed? I was asking myself that same question. We don't know. Anyways, at the 3rd one, right before she dies, she's like, there's a voice telling me to escape and to stop this sword. And so she uses her magic finally. After getting stabbed multiple times and tortured, she decides to use it and stops the dagger from stabbing her. The dagger's stopped and the guard is obviously like, what the fuck's going on? Are you doing magic right now? Just curious. So the dagger like turns, and I don't know if she's like bending it or something, but then it turns into like molten silver. And then it starts like crawling up towards him, and he's like inching away slowly. She knows that if she takes that sword out of her stomach, it's the end for her. So she's like trying to leave it in as much as she can, and she is trying to make it to that sword in the middle. For why? I don't know why she feels inclined to go to that sword, but she does. And in her last moments, that's what she's trying to do, is get to that sword. And the captain is like, don't touch that sword. It is the key to the gate. Because earlier the queen was like, the Fae, they found a way out, didn't they? And now they're training you in fucking combat. And he's like, don't open it. That is why this fortress room, this is why the Chamber of Secrets exists. And so she makes it with her last remaining breaths to the key, and she King Arthur's it because it's like lodged in the ground. Then they start like going in quicksand, but maybe this is where the title of the book comes in. So it's like quicksand, okay, but it's silver. So they're in quicksilver, perhaps you might say. They're sinking slowly into the ground, her and the guard, I believe. Then Death, guy from the cover, I suppose. I believe this is him, Death. He appears from the ground. He's kind of funny. I'm kind of vibing with him. Like, he's kind of like, oh my god, what the hell is going on here? He goes and kills the guard, and he gets this like chain that he has and like puts it around her like a necklace, and he's like, if you die before you can give this back, I'm not gonna be happy. And then he takes her, I suppose, beyond the veil, the curtain, you know? So yeah, I'm gonna read some more, get a little further, check back in when things happen. So yeah. Okay, it is a couple days later. So they went into the quicksilver. That is actually where the name comes from, so I'm just smart like that. Anyways, they go into the quicksilver. She obviously is not doing well. She was stabbed, but she wakes up and she's in this room, and a weird girl is sitting there, and she's really cold, which is surprising because in Zilvaren, she is always hot because it's like desert sand, remember? So she gets there, talks to this girl. She's like, what's up? Girl's like, hey, you're in Yvelia. It's the Fae world. It's called like the Winter Palace. What is it fucking called? Oh, okay, it is called the Winter Palace. Okay, good job, me. Anyways, this girl's like, it's always winter here, always snowing, snows every day. She's like, what? I didn't even know the Fae were real. She's like, am I hallucinating? She gets acclimated pretty fast. And then the girl is like, hey, we're gonna go see the king, so we need to get you like spruced up. She gives her some water, which she's like chugging that water because water was scarce in Zilvaren, and the water was like disgusting, like it was not clean. And so here she's drinking the crispiest, the coldest water. She's spoiled. She gets a bath. I don't think this girl's ever had a bath before, but she's loving it. She gets all spruced up for the king. They go see the king, which happens to be the girl who was taking care of her. Her name is Everlayne. It happens to be her daddy. Very convenient. His name is Belikon from the pronunciation guide, if you remember. He sees her. She is snarky immediately to him. This girl has no table manners. She is just rude. And she just be saying whatever she wants. So she's rude to the king. All the people in the court are like, that was so rude. And he's like, you know, I'm a little refreshed, you know, I don't really get a lot of back talk, so I'm like cool with it for a little bit. He eventually gets sick of it and really irritated. Anyways, he tells her that she is being tasked with learning how to recreate the quicksilver. In the Chamber of Secrets, that is what she conjured apparently, is quicksilver, which I believe is like a lost art form in this Fae realm. Like, they don't know how to do it. The people who could do it before, they're gone. Dead, I suppose. And she's like, can I please go see my brother? Just want to check, see if he's alive. And they're like, nah, can do, Saeris. He is probably already dead. Along with your entire third ward. If that's what the queen said, that is what she did. So, just call him dead, and move on. Just, like, get over it and help us. So, she does not take this will, obviously, but then she's dismissed. Then they bring in Kingfisher, which is the name of the guy who came in the darkness. Death, aka Kingfisher. He has a lot of nicknames. He comes and he's acting crazy, like a wild animal. Saeris is like, can he get a grip on himself? Like, what's going on? Remember, he put that pendant on her? Well, they took it off of her earlier that morning when she woke up. And then when he's in front of the king, they put it back on him, Kingfisher. And then he's like chilling. Don't really know what's going on with that, but that's a little mystery sauce. Then they leave to start their mission because she's like, I want to learn how I did this quicksilver thing so I can do it, get in and get out back to my brother just to see if he's alive, please. The next day, Everlayne takes her to the library and we meet Rusarius, who was like the main librarian guy. He's like old, crazy, really nice. And we also have met Renfis as well. He's like the general of the Fae army. A lot of this part has been like a lot of lore world building things. So we find out that the Fae are kind of like vampires. They have like pointed ears and pointed teeth. And apparently they used to like suck on human blood to like stay immortal. They don't have to do that anymore, but that's like the history. And there hasn't been a human in the Winter Palace in like a really long time, because like when they were there, they were kind of like just sucking their blood. I don't know if it was like a sexy sucking blood or just like a slave sucking blood. You know what I'm saying? Everybody shook that she could even touch that sword because apparently that sword would like incinerated her skin off. Like, it is too powerful. So she's got to have like some fae in her, because they're like, how possibly could a human do the quicksilver? Rusarius, the librarian man, he is like, oh, she's an alchemist. And they're like, we don't know yet, okay? The humor in this book is really bad. Whenever they're in the library together doing a little lore session for us, he's like, this sword has slain thousands. And then Saeris is like, I wouldn't have thought that was anything to brag about. You should probably get it looked at. And then Renfis, okay, this is the author, like, again, sucking their own dick, because number one, terrible joke. Number two, she has a character laugh at this terrible joke. Oh, Renfis says, ha! And stuffed his fist into his mouth, biting down on his knuckles as he tried to swallow down his laughter. It is not that funny. And so they leave the library to go to the forge. Kingfisher is telling Saeris about the sucking of the blood thing, and Everlayne is like really trying to get him to not tell her that. She's like crying for some reason, and she's like, why are you being like this? And he's like, I'm only telling her the truth. We find out that they are actually siblings, and Kingfisher has been gone for a long time, and apparently he feels like Everlayne and Renfis, the general of the army, they didn't like look for him hard enough, and he's been having a not good time, and they haven't seen him in like 100 years, and they only found him because of Saeris during the Chamber of Secrets episode with the quicksilver. Since Everlayne is like crying for some unknown reason, she like runs away the opposite direction of where they're heading, which is the forge. Renfis is like, I'm gonna go check on her. Saeris, what do you want to do? Like, you coming with me to go see Everlayne, or are you gonna go with Kingfisher to this forge? And she's like, I'm gonna go with Kingfisher to this forge. In her mind, she says this. I'm gonna go with Kingfisher to this forge because I think the faster I can figure this out, the faster I can get out of here. Which, sure, Saeris, sure, that's why you want to go with him. Sure. You're not fooling me. You are not fooling me. He's the guy on the cover. He has given her her nickname, so you know it's official now. You know we're in this romantasy genre whenever we see the nickname. This is her asking about why he's like a psycho crazy without that necklace on. But that is just like a crazy way to put it. Like, why are you completely unhinged without it? That is so funny. Oh, look, there he's using her nickname again. Osha now. Okay, it's a abbreviation of the nickname. So we've gone a little deeper, you know? I am very frightened. Well, guess how old his sister is? Nearly 1,500 years old. Okay. Our girl Saeris, she is 24. And let us see how old he is. He's actually 1,800 years old. So we don't love that. That is for sure. That is a crazy age gap. You're crazy for that, Callie. You're crazy for that. This bitch can also not stop talking about his dick. Why? Why can't she stop that? First, it was the comment in the library. I feel like we've had more instances, but this time he was like, ask me a question, you know, like hit me with anything. And she's like, thinking about it. And she says, Elroy swears that a man will lie about the size of his cock every time a woman asks him. And then Kingfisher. Also, I hate that name. The names were so bad. Are you asking me how big my cock is, Osha? Not Osha. Not her nickname being Osha. That is so fucking funny. Not like the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Did I have to look up what OSHA stood for? Yes, I did. Anyways, after he says, are you asking me how big my cock is, OSHA? She says, I don't care how big it is. I care about the way you answer. A slow, terrifying smirk spread across its face. It's big enough to make you scream and then some. Please help me. She said, see, you're not going to be honest. He looked around the forge, feigning confusion. I'm sorry. I'm not sure that I understand your meaning. Ask a man how big his dick is, and he'll show you that he's full of shit. Maybe, but I'm not a man. I'm a fey male. Okay? Get it right. And maybe I'm just well endowed. Like, why is this scene here? I don't want it there. We got this. Let's continue. Okay, it is the next day. I haven't even gotten that much further in this book, but I have to stop and recap you all with what's going on. So, after she asks him that question about his dick size, he, like, grabs her arm and somehow brings her pain. And he's like, you have the power to stop this, so do it. Stop it. And she's like, no, I can't. It hurts. Whatever. And he's like, listen. Okay, listen. Just shut up and listen. And she's like, I can't. And he's like, stop being a little baby and listen to the voices. She does. She listens to the voices. And they start chanting this spell. I don't even know how to say it. It's like Anarath More. So the voices are telling her a spell, essentially. And she says it out loud. She screams it, that phrase, out loud. And the pain is gone. And she's fine. They both look down and realize that she has a little tiny ball of silver liquid rolling around in the well of her palm. So I guess that's how you make the quicksilver. I don't know. You say the magic words. Abracadabra. Quicksilver. So she panics, trying to fling it away. He grabs her hand and is like, as long as I'm touching you, you're safe because I'm wearing the pendant. We have also learned that the alchemists that could create quicksilver usually didn't last that long, like live that long, because something about the quicksilver like makes you like schizophrenic. You like see things that aren't real, hear things that aren't real. You just like kind of go crazy and then you die. It like degenerates you to a point, I believe, the quicksilver, because the quicksilver is actually a portal. So that's how they used to travel between realms, was through the quicksilver. And so whenever the queen stuck that sword into the portal,
it like cut off all of the quicksilver portal. So like if you were traveling to another realm at the time, but you were from the Winter Palace, you were stuck there because the portals closed. So anyways, back to her holding the quicksilver in her palm. He is like, okay, close your eyes, feel it in your mind, reach for it. And then he says, tell it to sleep. And the quicksilver says into her mind, no, not sleep, not now. Slept for too long. And so she tells it again, and then it finally listens. And so then it turns into a little silver ball and just like beads off of her. And she punches him in the mouth for that whole deal. And Everlayne gets really mad at her. But first, Everlayne is getting her dressed. And Saeris is like, can I please wear some pants? Because she has been wearing these like full ass ball gowns this whole time, I think. And she says, don't tell me that pants are only for males. I've seen plenty of females wandering around the palace wearing pants. Everlayne says, we've been over this. You are too pretty to wear pants. That is her rationale for her not wearing pants, is that she's too pretty. Everlayne, Kingfisher's sister and her buddy, says warriors like Fisher don't react kindly to violence. And Saeris says, are you saying that he's so feral that one small right hook is enough to send him on an explosive killing rampage? And Everlayne says yes. So he really is unhinged. He really is completely unhinged. So it's a good thing he's got that necklace on. Right after that, we get some more lore about Everlayne and Kingfisher. You know how they're brother and sister? Well, apparently they're like half siblings. Everlayne says, my mother was married to a southern lord when she married my father. She had Fisher with her first husband, and when Fisher was 10, the king sent his father on a mission to Zilvaren, which is where Saeris is from. He never returned. That's when the gateways were stilled, so he was trapped in Zilvaren. The king said that Finran, which is Fisher's father, was responsible for the quicksilver stilling and declared him a traitor to the Fae. Okay, so Kingfisher's daddy was a very long time ago trapped in Zilvaren. Okay, I think you may know where we are heading here. Saeris obviously has some Fae blood, or else she would have been incinerated by that sword when she touched it. So she's got something in her. So unless there was another Fae trapped also in Zilvaren with Kingfisher's daddy, it is very possible that they're related somehow. Now, they haven't kissed or anything yet, okay? Are we gonna have like a City of Bones type siege where it's like, oh, are they forbidden lovers because like they may be related? Kingfisher is about 1700 years older than Saeris, so maybe they'll be like, oh, we're like so distantly related at this point that it's fine. But I don't know. It's not looking good for the incest part. So, that was like a little emergency update that I had to give because I don't know truly if that is where we're heading. Oh, also forgot to mention that the reason why they need Saeris' help to bring back the quicksilver is because the Winter Palace is like kind of at war with another Fae realm. And so I think this would be like a huge advantage for them. But then also, obviously it would just be good to have the portals back up and running. So that's like why they need her help. You know how they call Kingfisher Death? He obviously is not actually Death. I really thought that he was like kind of like a mythological creature in the beginning. With the way that they were like, oh, she talks to death. I was like, oh, it's like he is kind of like the devil vibe. But no, they just call him Death because he's killed a lot of people. So that kind of sucks. That is a little false advertising in my opinion. The reason why Everlayne is like, bro, chill, don't punch him or else he'll go crazy is because apparently Kingfisher in the past has like killed and razed just like an entire city. Just like burn that whole city to the ground. Killed everybody in it. I think that's how he got exiled for the 100 years. So I don't know. I'll just keep you updated if anything cool happens. Sorry, I'm back literally so soon, but I may have just reached a point in this book where I'm like starting to enjoy it. 180 pages in, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm having fun. Like, it's so silly. It is so silly. But this part, I don't know why it did it for me. I was like, okay, a switch has been flipped from like, I don't think I'm liking this to like, okay, all right. I'll like it. I'll enjoy it, okay? So, Kingfisher, this is post punching in the face. Kingfisher shows up to her room with the charcuterie board. And he's like, I got nowhere else to eat. Your room is way better than mine. So here's my breakfast spot. And he's eating. And she's like, your lips bleeding everywhere again. And she says, his tongue darted out between his lips, his blood staining the very tip of it. And I found myself being flashed by a pair of wickedly sharp canines. The sight of them sent a thrill of panic-tinged intrigue through me. Heat rose up from the pit of my stomach, my blood rushing to my cheeks. He sits up and he says, careful human, we Fae have an excellent sense of smell. You'd be amazed what we can scent floating on the air. And she is so embarrassed. She says, I wasn't doing anything. I was going to die of embarrassment. The moment had been fleeting. I hadn't even meant to think about it. I despised him. I was not attracted to him. I was not thinking about his tongue or his teeth. He set down the piece of bread and meat he was holding and sat back in his chair very slowly. His expression was subtly serious, his eyes alert, his voice low and smooth as velvet. You're making it worse? Swallowing down the urge to scream, I sat down at the table and forced myself to hold his unbearably smug gaze. Why haven't you gotten your lip taken care of anyway? They can heal it. And he's like, I was going to after I ate, but now I've decided against it. And she's chewing this cheese to like get herself to like get her mind off of it. And she says, this is such a weird sentence. She says, fuck, this cheese had the consistency of glue. I kept chewing, but my mouth was so dry it was turning into a thick paste. That's so gross. He says, I like being surprised. I'm also a fan of aggressive foreplay. It'll be a fun reminder. I breathed in sharply, inhaling cheese, choking and spluttering. I tried desperately to get rid of it, but it wasn't going anywhere. Kingfisher leaned forward, his tongue running over his teeth again. He smiled suggestively as he said, swallow. And Everlayne, his sister, they call her Lane now. She busts through the door and she's like, what the hell is going on in here? And she is like, are you trying to kill her? She's choking on this cheese. So fucking stupid. But I think it's funny. And this is like the cringe I like. Oh man. And she says, and why does it smell like a brothel in here? If you're gonna spend the night out whoring and drinking, the least you could do is wash the smell of sex off of you before showing up for breakfast. And Kingfisher, he is loving this. He's like, okay, gonna go take a shower because I'm the one who smells like sex, you know? That's just funny. And I just like it. Never mind. It's bad again. I think that was just a freak scene that I was like, hey, I like that scene. But can confirm it has gone right back down. It's getting a little interesting. It's still a little whack, okay? They were in the forge later that day, you know, after that whole charcuterie situation. You know, we got the Sarah J. Maas scent thing going on. So she's still smelling like the sex. And so he's like taunting her and he's like, why don't you just kiss me? See what happens. So she does. Goes a touch too far, per usual. Cut to the next scene. She's running and trying to run down to the quicksilver pool that's in the palace, because apparently you can't just like create it out of thin air. You have to be in like the pool portal area.
She runs down there and she stole Kingfisher's ring, which allegedly he used in replacement for the pendant while she was wearing it. He had the ring still, but he's like, she gets down to the pool. She's about to jump in, go back to Zilvaren to find her brother. And he shows up and he's pissed. He is pissed. He takes his sword. She like grabs it. It burns her this time because he's like, would have told you that would have happened, except you don't listen to me. Honestly, he gets points for that. She is a really bad listener. And she is like crying, wants to go see her brother, wants to get him and bring him here. And he's like, fine, I will go get your fucking brother for you. She's like, and I want Elroy. And he's like, who the fuck is Elroy? No, you get one, because like you expect me to travel both of this and not noodle my brain up. So he's like, fine, I'll go get Hayden, your brother. Oh, they're doing an oath. This is really giving the Sarah J. Maas vibes. They're doing a blood oath, all right? Like the tattoo. Okay, this is their oath. He goes and tries to get her brother. She helps him and assists him in any way that he asks him to. And she does as she's told. Not looking good. He says, you agree to the pact? She says, yes. Don't agree to a pact with those loose conditions. Help and assist me in any way I ask and do as you're told? That is anything. Oh no. That's really bad. Also, that's definitely going to come back in the sexy situations. I just know it. He says, you understand this is a blood oath and you will be bound by this oath until death. And she's like, yes, oh my god, just like get on with it. He says, you trap me in Zilvaren, I will lay waste to whatever remains of your shining silver city. That goes kind of crazy. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe just in comparison to all the horrible lines in this book, that one is the only one that's like moderately cool. The funniest thing just happened. He went through the quicksilver to go get her brother, okay? I don't think I mentioned this, but she has a pet now, a pet fox named Onyx. She was named. So there's that. And she waits the hour, opens the quicksilver back up before it even like fully is finished. Kingfisher comes out of the quicksilver. He's struggling because he doesn't have the pendant on. She's like, oh yeah, the gate. LOL. Closes it. No problem. She knows how to do that masterfully now. Takes the pendant, puts it on Kingfisher, makes sure he's okay. His sword is dripping with blood. He comes out. He is not looking good. The person that he brought back, he looks like low-key dead. She's like, Fisher had actually done it. He'd brought Hayden back with him. I left Kingfisher as he struggled to sit up. My knees sang with pain. I didn't care. Hayden was alive. He was here. Oh no. Was this supposed to be some kind of joke? Kingfisher says, it'll take a while for him to wake up. Humans are so fucking fragile. She says, this is not my brother, Fisher. This is Carrion fucking Swift. Not Carrion. I thought we were done with him. Why is he there? Oh, Jesus Crispies. That is really bad. I would be fine never seeing Carrion again. Can't believe he's back. Okay, we got some sus bloodline stuff going on. He said, I tracked your bloodline. It led me right to him. I asked him who he was. He said he was Hayden Fane. Ergo, I brought you Hayden Fane. His blood said he was Hayden. That's pretty sus. So I don't know. There's something incestual happening in this book. There's something happening. Whether it's with Kingfisher, Carrion, or what. Something fucking weird is happening. So I cannot believe that he brought back Carrion. That is so funny. That is so funny. Hello, it is the next day. So after they realized that they got Carrion instead of her brother Hayden, remember their oath. He says he can tell her to do whatever he wants. And he tells her to like stay put. He's gonna go somewhere, do some stuff, but they are leaving the palace and he just needs her to like chill there. Don't move. I'll be right back. We're heading out. So she is like, oh my god, I can't move my legs. So she's stuck there. She can't move. And so he comes back and she's like, what the heck? what's going on? And he's like, well, you made the oath. And she's like, you tricked me. And he's like, no, you agreed. And you were a little idiot about it. So don't really feel bad for you. That is your consequences. It sounds to me like you learned a lesson. So they dip from the Winter Palace. They go through this wicker wood, which is this creepy forest. And there's like ghosts, but they're not called ghosts. They're called something else. I can't remember. But the ghosts, the noise they make is like their last thing they spoke before they died. So it's kind of like an annihilation where like those like animals, the sound they make is like the screaming from their last prey vibe. They're on this road for a really long time. They show up at this pub with like a bunch of different creatures. There is satyrs and little tiny fairies. They brought Carrion with them. He's like been laid over the back of the horse, just like flopping around. They're at the pub waiting for Renfis to show up. He shows up. I don't know how this happens, but Kingfisher gets a little riled up. He starts yelling a little bit, and all the eyes in the pub go on him. And Saeris is like, what the fuck is gonna happen? Like, uh-oh, they're about to attack us because they found out that Kingfisher's here. But the opposite happens because all these people share their stories about how Kingfisher saved their kingdom, did something to help them, like, only have good things to say. So it's like, oh, he's not actually bad. He's just damaged. Anyways, Saeris is like, you're actually good? And Kingfisher is like, that person is gone. They don't really exist anymore because the quicksilver's like fucked with his brain, remember? When they leave the pub, after everybody has to praise him, Kingfisher tells Saeris that they are going to travel through this shadow portal, okay? And she's really scared of the shadow portal. She doesn't want to go in it. Understandable. But they're like, sorry, you have to go in this portal. She goes in the portal, comes out, she pukes. You know, she pukes a lot in this book, which, you know, I kind of appreciate. I kind of respect that, because if I went through a shadow portal, I would probably puke when I came out the side also. She is like dazed from this shadow portal. She's like not doing too well from it. So she like passes out. She pukes, passes out from the shadow portal. Carrion is now awake and he's in her room. She's like, where's my brother? Where's Elroy? He's like, your brother's fine. He's in the 7th ward. He has a job. He has a place to live. Like, he has better food, water, rations than he did in the 3rd. So he's like doing fine. Elroy's also doing pretty fine. He's like a little irritated that you're gone because he needs help, but he's fine. And so she is like really relieved by this news. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I forgot that the little relic pendant thing he wears to keep himself sane in the quicksilver, they don't have any of those. I think his is like the only one. There's like only a couple that exist. And so the quicksilver is pretty much useless if you don't have the relic, because it scrambles your mind and then you get schizophrenia. They don't know how to make the relics, but they need more so people can actually travel through them. I don't know where they all went whenever the quicksilver could be traveled from. I guess it has been a really long time, but still, you would think they would like hold on to that. But so they need Saeris to figure out how to make more relics. So that's like her job, is that she needs to make enough relics for all of Kingfisher's people, which is about 15,000, I believe. So that's quite a lot. She doesn't even know how to make one. So she's a little upset about this because she struck a bad deal. I can't really feel sympathy for her. She could have just like chilled out, thought about the conditions she was agreeing to, but whatever. They're in Callish now, which is Kingfisher's home. That was like his domain when his dad was still alive, before his mom was married to Belikon. This is like his Orisha from 4th Wing. She obviously loves it there. It feels really homey, lived in. It's got like some comfy couches, she says. It's got fire sprites that work for him, and they are just kind of cute, and I just like them. They're a little silly. This fire sprite is so happy to see Kingfisher. We find out that this fire sprite, Arthur, raised Kingfisher, essentially. So, soft spot for him. You may be wondering What is stopping Belikon from just rolling up to Kalish and taking Saeris back for himself and then like killing Kingfisher or whatever? Well, just so happens that Kingfisher's dad created the most powerful wards around Kalish. So Belikon can't come in. So that's really convenient. But you know, I appreciate a plot hole being filled. Like, sure, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take it over nothing. I will give that to this book. This book makes way more sense than ACOTAR. The dialogue is worse, but the story overall is better, I believe. I'm going to try to finish this book today because I really want this video to be over. I need to post something because it's been a long time. So let's get this bread. It's 3 o'clock right now. It's saying I have 6.5 hours left. Ooh, I don't know if this is gonna happen, but you know, let's try our best. Let's try our best. Okay, so in terms of the romance between Kingfisher and Saeris, we've gotten some updates. Renfis found out that Kingfisher made that blood oath with Saeris, and he got really mad at him. His deal with Kingfisher was that he has got to get to know Saeris more. That's a weird request, but okay. To make Renfis happy, Kingfisher has to eat dinner with Saeris. Their first dinner that they have together. Okay, it's like a really long table. Okay, he's here, she's here, and she's like, what's the point of this if like I can't even see him? She gets a little irritated and then takes her chair and takes it all the way to where he is and sits like right next to him. Arthur comes in and he's like, the audacity. He's like, I'm so sorry that I allowed this to happen. And Kingfisher's like, chill, Arthur. Anyways, we get that. They're just sitting, hanging out together, eating. You know, the normal cringe banter is happening. And then all of a sudden, creatures crash through the dining room window. They're really disgusting. She says, it smells like sulfur when they come in and like their blood smells bad. Like, that's gross. That's just nasty. They're really skinny. They got red eyes, but they call them feeders, and they are Sansaroth foot soldiers, and 4 of them burst in. Kingfisher immediately ready for battle. He's got his sword out, cutting them up. He's like, Saeris, are you gonna move? Because she's still sitting at the table in shock. So she whips out the little dagger that Kingfisher gave her a while back and cuts 2 of them, like cuts them, gets a couple hits in, but then she gets bit by cut up. This puts her in a coma. She's struggling. She's really struggling. She loves to get bit because she's rude, but this time was just like a failure on her part for not knowing how to fight. She wakes up and she's in Kingfisher's room. She's in his bed. Of course, he has black sheets. And he is like, wow, took you long enough to wake up. So like, we're getting the hint that he like cares about her, okay? Obviously he cares about her because she's like their one ticket to the war. Obviously there's more there with that. So he commands her using the oath to stay in his room, and she can only go to the bathroom and wash her hands. They were very clear about that. So she lays in his bed for 5 days, and then he is gone fighting while she is recovering. She wakes up. She's back to work in the forge that they have at Kalish. She is testing stuff. It's not going well. So she's like back at it. At some point during this time, she is like, Kingfisher, how in the fuck did you mess up getting Carrion instead of Hayden? You know how earlier she was like grinding on him in the forge? Well, apparently that put some pheromones juices on him, and then so when he went to Zilvaren, he said, I could smell you from miles away. So he goes to the 3rd ward. Obviously Hayden's not in the 3rd ward because, as Carrion told us, he's now in the 7th ward, and he's like, I could smell you all over him. Not him smelling her pussy from miles away. That is horrible. After I read that, I had to put it down for a little bit. I was like, this book has gotten a little bit too much for me. Oh man. Whenever she's laying in bed, Carrion comes in. She's like, oh, how'd you get a new boot? Because in their trek to Kalish, he has lost one of his shoes. And she's like, oh, You got some new shoes? He's like, yeah, Kingfisher gave them to me on one condition, that I take a bath. And she was like, oh. He was like, yeah. He brought in all these people to like scrub me down, especially around my dick area. They put some moss on my dick and like jerked me off with this moss to get the smell off of me. So, okay, we're getting a little hint of like Kingfisher's jealousy here, okay? Kingfisher comes back from his little time in the war camp, and Renfis comes in, surprises Saeris in the forge. He's like, hey, Kingfisher wants your presence tonight at dinner. She's like, okay, but you're coming. And so is Carrion. So they're all there at dinner together. She is back to her spot with Kingfisher right next to him. And Renfis is shook at this as well. He's like, what in the hell is going on? Why are you sitting there next to him? But he doesn't say that, but he's shook apparently. It seems like Arthur took a hint the last time and made this long ass table just like a little shorter. But no, she's still sitting right next to him. That was not enough. They're eating dinner. They were all talking together about, oh, okay, Saeris, you're going to start training with Renfis. And so Renfis and Carrion are talking about sword stuff, war stuff. And so Kingfisher and Saeris are like in their own bubble over here. And she is getting mad at him for making her stay in his room for like 5 days while she recovered. And she's like, you are using that oath too much. Which he's used it like 3 times. So I don't know about that. Anyways, she's like, you are evil. That's crazy. But he says, if I were evil and using your oath for my own purposes, I'd order you onto your knees for me. I'd order you to part your legs for me. I'd order you to suck and fuck me until you passed out from exhaustion. Is that what you want, little Osha? Which, like, he's so right. Like, he could be using this oath for literally anything. So I have no idea how she thinks that this is evil. Considering the evil that she saw in Zilvaren, I don't know how this is equal, but whatever. Oh my god, it just got worse. It just got so much worse. You know what? I can't even say this. So I'm just gonna put it here. Y'all can read it for yourselves. I'll give you some time. Keep in mind that Renfis and Carrion are right fucking there. And he hears this. And it says Renfis nearly choked on his drink. Oh my god, it's so much worse. So because the Fae have that great sense of smell, that Renfis also knew that Saeris was like liking that. So Fisher already knew that she wanted him. But now Renfis knows too. Ooh, that's a yikes. That is a real big yikes. Dare I say that Carrion is my favorite character. If Kingfisher comes in, he says, have you got the annoying one? Renfis says, I have. I hope you're not talking about me, Carrion said. I just like him. I think he's kind of funny. So, what can I say? Alright, we're going to catch up a little bit here. Bring up my notes. Alright, so they all go to the war camp together. Renfis and Carrion and Saeris and Kingfisher. And Renfis does a little training sesh with Carrion and Saeris. Carrion, he's not that good. Sarah, she's alright. She's pretty good. Kingfisher comes in. I thought that they would be training a lot in combat, but no, they just have that one training session. Kingfisher comes in and he takes Saeris to his tent. Why? I don't know. He feeds her some stew and then he flips the table and then they start kissing. And his teeth like graze her neck. A little cut. Oh wait, no. So they start kissing furiously in this tent out of nowhere, essentially. And then she says something like, I want you. And then he's like, snaps out of it and then he leaves. She's like, well, what the fuck am I gonna do? Just sit here? No, I'm gonna go out there and occupy myself. And she's just kind of wandering around And then she stumbles upon Renfis. He finds her and he's like, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm good. And he's like, I can smell you and him. So like, I know that like he didn't like try to force anything, but like just wondering if like you're okay. And she's like, yeah, I'm good. They go to this like little meeting strategy, like war room. Everybody's there. Everybody important's there. Kingfisher walks in his cloak and he's like dripping, like he took a dive in the water, something, you know? Danya, which is like another high fae, she is really pissed at Fisher because she's like, you left us here for 100 years and you abandoned us. She's like, you are treasonous, traitor. She pulls out her sword and she goes to like chop him off or like kill him or something. And Kingfisher is just gonna like let her. He like knows that he deserves it, and so he's just kind of like defeated and he's like accepting his fate. He's like, if this is how it happens, so be it. While all of this has happened, Saeris and Carrion are hanging out on the sidelines. Carrion's eating a quiche. He's like, you want some? She's like, whatever, I just need to get my mind off this kissing situation that just happened. Kingfisher, he sees this out of the corner of his eye and he's like, anyways, so they're eating this quiche. Danya's about to like, I don't know what she's gonna do. Stab him or whatever. She's gonna fuck him up a little bit though. Saeris, she just like hops up. She's like, stop. And then Danya's sword shatters into like a million little needles and they all go into the stone wall, like individually. And everybody's like, and Danya's like, oh, so you brought an alchemist? Like, when were you gonna tell us vibe? And then all of a sudden there's a boom. There's booms going on outside. And somebody runs in and they're like, we got a bunch of feeders trying to get across this frozen lake to our camp. So we need to break the ice so they don't come over and kill us. They're already halfway through the lake. And they are still trying to get it. And then Carrion and Saeris are like, should we go help? Like, I don't know like how much help we're gonna be, but like maybe we should just go try. And so they go and they try and it starts breaking and Kingfisher comes but eats like a huge swath of smoke and darkness. And Carrion is like, whoa, what is that? And she's like, yeah, I think that's all Kingfisher. And he's like, pretty impressive. They achieve that goal of drowning all of the feeders, which we now know that they are called vampires. So the feeders are just vampires. Okay, great. Then their king, Malcolm, I believe is his name. He like projects his voice because the Fae have that power and he's like, Kingfisher, come out wherever you are. And he's like, you were just with me a couple weeks ago. Like, it's been a hot second, but you know. And so everybody's like, a few weeks ago? He hasn't been here for 100 years. So what's he been cooking with Malcolm? So we don't know yet. So that ends. That's kind of where it ends. And Kingfisher takes Saeris to his room. And then they have sex for the first time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Saeris gets a little tattoo from this. She gets a little bird above her boob, she says. The next day, a little shadow portal opens up. She's waiting for him to come through to like pick her up. He doesn't come and she's like, I gotta go through this portal myself. And so she goes through and he's like just chilling there. And she's like, hey, what's up with this tattoo I have? And he's like, sorry, can't take it away. Just gonna have to live with it. And he's like, come on, let's go see a healer so we can make sure you're not pregnant or anything. And she's like, no need because I'm actually sterile. And he's like, what? What'd you say? She's like, yeah, I'm sterile. I've been sterilized. She's like, yeah, the queen, she like sterilizes like 70% of the girls in the third ward because there's just too much disease. This changes him. He is not happy about this, I don't think. He like kind of he's acting really funky and weird and he like backs away and then leaves. And then later on, she's like, he comes back and he's like kind of scarred up. And she's like, what happened? And he's like, I just had training. And then Renfis, he's got some bruises and she's like, what's going on? And they were like, he was like in a bad mood today. So I'm like, oh, he's pissed that she's sterile. So I don't know. So Saeris is like, whatever, I'm going to the forge. She tries to find the quicksilver there, realizes, and then she like she searches the forge like 5 times for this quicksilver. Can't find it. listens for it, realizes it's outside. And she's like, what in the world? Why is it outside? Climbs up this mountain to Carrion, who has the quicksilver in like a little box. And Carrion is like, hey, what's up? And she's like, yeah, can I have that quicksilver? And he's like, I don't know what it was. Kingfisher just gave it to me, you know, whatevs. And later on we find out that he's trying to get her to be better at scoping out the quicksilver from like long distances. So it was a kind of training. We also find out that Carrion knew about the Fae. Like he was like, I mean, I knew Fae were real. And she's like, what? She's like, how are you so cool with all this? He's like, well, I mean, I knew Fae were real because my grandma told me about them. And she's like, yeah, but we all heard stories that as a child, but we didn't believe them. And he's like, I believed them because my grandma told me, and she is no bullshit. Okay, so I knew she was giving me the truth. And she's like, okay, that's fair. I don't know. Kingfisher shows up later to the forge. They're just, you know, bantering her, Carrion and Kingfisher. Carrion is like, you need to get laid, Kingfisher. And then he calls Saeris Sunshine. And he's like,
the mist that shrouds the mountains, the bite of electricity in the air before a storm, the smoke that rolls across the battlefield before the killing starts. You have no idea what she is, what she could be. You should call her Majesty. Bitch, what?
And Carrion's kind of like, okay. Anyways, but Kingfisher's like, no, Saeris, I need you to come with me. And they go back to the war room, and then a bunch of them are there. Lorreth is there. Lorreth is a new character. He is just like a part of the wolf pack. It is like a group of high fae, like main fighters, you know what I mean? Like the Cassie and Azriel, you know what I'm saying? He is like, hey, Saeris, can you get this quicksilver out of the wall and like kind of make Danya a new sword, please? And she's like, haha, yeah, I don't know how to do that. But, cool. And she's like, why can't you just like cut the pieces off? Because it's like lodged in there. She's like, why don't you just cut it off, sand it, and like call it a day? And they're like, yeah, see, Danya's sword is like a really special sword. It's like a god sword, and you just kind of like destroyed it. And it's kind of like a huge deal and kind of like a super big cultural like piece. It's like one of the oldest things in the whole world. So like, and you destroyed it. So we really need you to just like get it out, please. And she's like, oh. Got it. Don't know how to do that, but we'll get back to you on that. And they are like, yeah, in the text, it was always liquid quicksilver or solid. There was no whatever this fragmenting thing is. And she's like, oh, does that mean like I'm an anomaly? And they're like, no. It means you're the most powerful alchemist that ever lived. Okay? And she's like, oh, okay, that's really great. And they're like, oh, also, by the way, if you don't get this done in 12 months, we're all doomed. We're all dead from Malcolm's army. So please get on with it and like, please make it work. So she's like, ha, great. I'm hyperventilating now. I'm going to have a panic attack. And she's like, all right, Lorreth, I need you to take me to a tavern, please. And when they're chilling, it's just her and Lorreth chilling in this tavern. And she's like, hey, Lorreth, can I ask you a little question about the sucking of the blood? And he's like, bro, that is not tavern talk. That is actually like, give me a second. I need another drink to talk about the situation with you. And also, don't be asking people that question because that is like not even, it's past taboo, okay? And she's like, so what does it mean? He's like, that is like between you two. Like it is a sex thing. Like he said, it makes them harder than they ever have been. And they like love it. It is like pure ecstasy. They live for the sucking of the blood. And she's like, okay, great, noted. Let's please change the subject now. My bad. Didn't know that was wrong. He's like, that is between whoever is wanting to suck your blood. But we also get a little Lorreth backstory, a little Lorreth lore, you might say. And we find out that he used to be a musician, just like a guy on the street And Kingfisher found him in a ditch, like almost dead. He had been sucked dry by a bunch of vampires, by a couple of them. She's always going to come up here whenever I'm talking. So Lorreth was almost dead. Kingfisher brought him back to the palace. They were like, he's probably not going to live. And so you can do this thing where you can give away part of your soul to someone to help them. But if that person dies, then that part of your soul just like goes back to you. But if the person who gave you the soul dies and a part of their soul's still out there living, then they are trapped in like limbo. They like can't move on. They can't pass on. And so she learns that, and he's like, yeah, so if he ever goes, I'm going with him because I'm not gonna make him stay in limbo. And so she's like, wow, Kingfisher, really nice guy. I like him. Lorreth also tells Saeris that Kingfisher really can't lie, that these fairies can't lie if they have taken the Fae oath or whatever. She's like, oh, he wasn't lying about his dick then. So goofy. So anyways, after she's drinking at the tavern with Lorreth, Kingfisher comes, picks her up. She's drunk. He takes her back to his room and he pieces out. And then she wakes up. She's hungover. She's not feeling too hot. And he doesn't show up at all that day. And then he doesn't come back to get her until like the next night. And she's like, what's going on? That's when he takes her to Ballard, which is like a small village. And it's like their summer solstice feast. They meet Wendy. She's really nice. She's like, Kingfisher, where you been all these years? I keep making these damn biscuits for you. You never showed up. You need to reimburse me on the ingredients. And he's like, sorry. Later that night, Saeris passes out because she hears that Anarath Moor chanting in her ear again, like very loudly, and it like makes her pass out. And apparently she said it when she was passed out. And she woke up and they're like, are you good, girl? And she's like, yeah. And Kingfisher's like, we better head out. Thanks, guys. And they're like, bye. He takes her to the wood and she's like, what does that mean? Like Anarath Moor. And he's like, stop saying it. And she's like, I've seen him a lot of things, but I have never seen him scared. And then they walk into like the downtown of Ballard. He like has an apartment there. There's a statue of his mom in like the center. He's like, okay, there's a bathroom there. Here's your bedroom. Here's your stuff. Good night. See you in the morning. She wakes up to screaming. He is screaming in pain. And so she goes to his room and he's like, no, stop, please. She's like, what's happening? Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm gonna go get someone. He's like, no, stop. It's gonna pass. And then so she's like, I'm not leaving. Like, I can't go back to sleep. You're literally screaming. So I'm gonna stay. And she like, his head is like here, you know, like his body's here, you know, she's like straddling him. And he's like laying back on her and she's like petting him, you know. He's like, okay, help me get my mind off of it. Like, tell me a story from Zilvaren. She's like, I don't really have a lot of happy ones. He's like, that's fine. I want the real ones. So we get a little Saeris lore about what her life was like in Zilvaren. Her mom was a prostitute. Her dad was killed when she was really young, just by like an accident, like a sand dune coming over. We hear about the rebels who came and like taught her things, like how to siphon stuff, like guys who would come and stay with her. And then apparently she like slept with a lot of guardians, the mom did. And so her mom one day was like, no, I don't want to have sex with you today. Like, I'm done with this. Don't want to do it anymore. And the guardian she turns down, the next day he like catches her in the square, finds 2 little daggers on her, and that is a crime punishable by death. So they just slit her throat right then and there in front of everybody. And they're like pissing on her. And it's just like horrible. And Saeris saw like all of that, which she wasn't supposed to, but she did. She tells him about that, and then his episode passes. He's like, my mom was killed too, which we just knew that she died a little bit after giving birth to Everlayne, but we didn't know that she was killed. And so Saeris is kind of like, okay, noted, but I'm not gonna like pry right now. But they go to sleep for a little bit, wake up, have sex again. This time he bites her and it's like amazing. And then they go to sleep again. They wake up and she is covered in a shit ton of tattoos now. She's got all kinds. And she's like, hello,
why do I have sleeves now? He like makes them disappear for a little bit, and he's like, you can like have them back if you want them, but like if you decide you don't want them, like they'll go away. She's like, cool. What do they say? And they're just like, he's like, most of it's just like words, but obviously he's not telling us the full truth about these little runes. So, and she's like, okay, but you can't remove this one, the bird that she got the first time. And he's like, no, I can't. But he also gets really upset because he sees the bite marks on her. So cut to them back at the forge. She's testing some more stuff. It's not working. Carrion's there, and he's like, hey, you know how you said it's really easy to turn the quicksilver to liquid and solid just by saying like, okay, go liquid, okay, go solid. And he's like, have you tried just asking it to be a relic? And she's like, haha, no. That's fucking stupid. Why didn't I think of that before? And so she goes to test this by going to the war room with all the little things in there. And she's like, hey guys. And they're like, hey Saeris, what's up? And she's like, hey, I like kind of destroyed this girl's sword, and she's like kind of pissed. So what can I do to make you come out of the wall and be a sword again, please? And they're like, we want a song. And she's like, okay. Done. Then she's like, okay, then you will be a sword? And they're like, yeah, cool, we'll be a sword. But you know how Kingfisher's Nimmerel sword, it's got that magic still, but all the other ones don't have magic? She's like, hey, what would it take for you to imbue it with some magic? And they're like, whoa, hold your horses. I don't want to be just giving out magic willy-nilly here. And she's like, okay, but like, what if you tested their blood? And like, if you deem them worthy, like, would you give it magic? And they're like, yeah. Okay, if the song was good and everything went well, give it magic. And she's like, fantastic. And so they come out of the wall, onto the ground. She picks it all up, puts it in the jar. So her and Carrion go back to the forge with all the little pieces of the sword. And she gets to work, okay? She gets to work on this sword. She is putting in the effort. She is working until like 4 a.m. on this sword. She asks Lorreth, are you good at whittling? He's like, yeah, I'm actually fantastic at whittling. I'm literally really good at whittling. He whittles this really cool thing for the sword. She's like, amazing. She puts it all together, makes this amazing sword. Kingfisher's there. She doesn't realize he's there. She's like, how long have you been here? And he's like, a couple hours. I've just been enjoying watching you work. She makes like the sickest sword ever. And outside, there is some beautiful aurora borealis thing going on outside. And they're like, whoa, we haven't seen that for like 1,000 years. And so like, she's cooking up the magic sword in the forge. And the quicksilver, it says, okay, I'm ready for my song now. And so Lorreth starts singing the song.
Why is this stupid book making me tear up? What the fuck? Damn. Maybe I'm tired. That low-key hit me. Why? I don't know. Just did. What can I say? Yeah, that little song just like did it to me. Ugh, I love that, like, she didn't have to ask him to sing, like, he just did it. I think I really like poems, and I think this one is actually decent. Hesitate to say that. Lorreth got the sword instead of Danya, bro. Fuck Danya, she's a bitch, bro. Oh, so nobody remembers the song that he sang. Just her and the quicksilver. They like took it and erased everybody's memory of the song. I kind of like that. Am I getting soft on this book? Maybe. I mean, 484 pages, man. Like, I gotta be feeling something, you know? Whether it's just like fondness because I've spent so much time here. I don't like when authors rely on that, but at least it's helped pushing me through. How we named the sword? I don't know how to say that. I don't think it's in the pronunciation guide. Yvelia? That's pretty cool. Blue flame rippling down the sword's blade. Brilliant white light. So cool. Big updates. So after she takes her bath, they sleep together in the same bed, which they haven't done yet. And she thinks Fisher's sleeping, and she's like talking to the quicksilver inside of him. And she's like, hey, can you like get out of him, please? And they're like, no, we can't.
it's been this way for a really long time. Like, we are not separate. We are one. He is Quicksilver. We are him, you know? And apparently when he was just a little boy, he slipped through the Quicksilver, shouldn't have lived. And so I believe he made some sort of bargain at that point when he was a child and accepted this fate and like knew the consequences. We also get a little interesting thing. The Quicksilver says, whenever she's like, hey, Quicksilver, she goes, I'm Saeris, I'm an alchemist. And they're like, we know who she is. She is the dawn. She is the moon. She is the sky. She is the oxygen in our lungs. Bro, chill. Like, chill, Quicksilver. And she was like, what the fuck does that mean? And so he's like, hey, you find out anything? She's like, sorry. And he's like, it's okay. I was wondering when you were going to try to like yank it out of me. Then Renfis pops in and he's like, ooh, sorry. Didn't realize y'all were like together in here. But Kingfisher, I need you because we got some vampy problems. Kingfisher's like, okay. And Saeris is like, I'm coming too. And he's like, I really don't want you to come, but do you swear you'll like stay right by me and like do what I tell you? Like run if I tell you to run? And she's like, yeah. He's like, okay. And then he whips out the blade. Solace, I believe is its name. Yeah, Solace. And that is his father's sword, okay? That's the one King Arthur'd out of the Chamber of Secrets. He whips it out and he's like, here you go. This is your sword now. Like, it's been in Zilvaren longer than it was in Yvelia, so that makes it a Zilvaren sword. So, and Renfis is like he's happy. He's like, yeah, this is like what was meant to be. And, so yeah, now they're going into the battle that's happening. We still have like 160 pages. So I don't think we're gonna finish it tonight. I don't think we are. It's 9:04. I don't know. We're just gonna see. Alright guys, we're at the final stretch. I got about 100 pages left. Let me catch you up to speed. So, the vampires are trying to get through again. They start breaking the ice. Okay, they break it pretty fast. But then, after they break it, vampires come up from the shore, like from underneath the ice, and start coming at people. So, it's a little bit worse. So, Renfis and Saeris, they both are slaying vampires left and right. Renfis is like, you wield Solace just as good as Kingfisher's dad. She loves that. And then after they kind of kill all the vampires at the shore, they realize Everlayne is on the other side with Malcolm. Not good. She was bit by Malcolm, which means she is enthralled. Like, he can tell her to do anything and, like, she will do it. And, like, she will want to do it. Very bad. Not good. And also, if they don't get to her in, like, 3 days, she is gonna turn into a vampire and then die. We don't want that. We kind of figure out that Malcolm wants Saeris. And Kingfisher is like, no! You can't have her! And Saeris is like, whoa. So they go regroup. And in the tent that they're in, Danya crashes in and is like, give me back my sword. Lorreth, they're all like, oh, sorry Danya, this is actually his sword now, so. And she runs up there and she grabs that sword. But you know how Saeris touched Kingfisher's sword earlier and it like singed her hand? Well, Danya grabbed the sword and it blew her hand off. She has no hand, just a nub. And she's like, ah! And Kingfisher's like, you gonna behave now? Because I could probably get a healer to fix your hand. She's like, yes, I'll behave. She doesn't. But it was a good try. She gets her hand back, so it's fine. They portal over to the dining room. Sarah sits in her usual seat. And Danya's like, you can't sit there. And Sarah's is like, why not?
And she's like, that's where, like, Kingfisher's wife should sit. That's, like, the ladies' spot. And she's like, oh, that explains why everybody's been weird about me sitting here. And Renfis is like, she's fine. Let her fucking sit there. And Kingfisher's like, yeah, just let her sit there, okay? And she's like, you guys are crazy for that. After they sit, they're trying to regroup, figure out their next steps. Kingfisher's like, Saeris, go to the forge and try to make a relic, okay? She starts talking to the quicksilver, and this quicksilver that she's working with, it's like, I'm good, I don't really need anything. The other quicksilver's like, give me a song. But this quicksilver is like, I'm good. Her and Carrion are talking. Eventually, the quicksilver's like, wait, I can take a secret, you know? Like, I would love a secret. And Saeris like, okay, I can do that. I can do that. And she tells the quicksilver that she wants to stay in Yvelia. She doesn't really want to go back to Zilvaren. She wants to go back to get her brother in Elroy, but that's where it ends. She doesn't want to stay there. She just wants to bring him to Yvelia, and she wants to stay there with Fisher. As she's making this relic, she puts her blood in there, and then it's complete. And the quicksilver is like, yes, that is a good secret. You want to save Kingfisher. You want to save him. And she's like, save him from what? And she asks it again, and of course, it doesn't answer. She puts the ring on that she just made, the relic she just made, she puts it on. And that's when she hears the Anorath Moor screaming in her ears. Everything goes dark. She, like, freaks out, and she, like, takes it off, and she's like, whew, never doing that again. So, Léna, which is the healer, she comes in to check on Saeris. She's like, just checking after that whole vampire battle. Like, you good? You need anything? And she's like, nah, I'm good. And she's like, wait a second. Léna, you've got some runes on your body. And she's like, where did those come from? And she's like, oh, me and my husband designed them. They were like for our 5th wedding anniversary. And she was like, so you like got them done? She was like, yeah. She was like, I mean, you could get them done earlier, but like, you know, some marriages don't work out. So some people don't want to get matching tattoos. Saeris is like, yeah, totally. But like, they never just like show up out of nowhere. And she's like, oh, no. They did like a really, really long time ago, like centuries ago, but they don't do that anymore. They kind of left with a lot of the magic, the god swords, you know, they used to have crazy magic. They don't have that anymore. So same with the mating bonds, kind of done for. And she was like, yeah, okay, noted. And she's like, what about words? They have words on them? And she's like, that was like in storybooks. That was not real. And even if it was, you wouldn't really want it to be real because it always ends in tragedy. Like, the more runes you have, the more doomed you are, kind of. And so Saeris is like, I'm about to pass out. And she's like, do you know perchance where Kingfisher is? She's like, oh yeah, he's in his room. He told me to tell you he'd be there. She goes there. She's like, huh, Kingfisher? You know who just told me the craziest thing? Léna. She's like, you know what she just told me about? God bindings. Which is like what they have, Saeris and Kingfisher. They have a god binding, which is even more than a mate. So you have a fated mate, or you have a god binding, like you were chosen by the gods to be together. So that's what they got. And she's like, hey, you knew about that? And you didn't tell me? And he's like, yeah, I've known for a really long time that you were coming. And she's like, how? And he was like, my mom was an oracle. At the time, I thought she was, like, a little crazy. She, like, told me all about you. She drew pictures of you. She said that when you came that, like, everything would, like, be crazy. Like, you would be chaotic. But that you would, like, help me, save me. And that was, like, all his mom knew. Back in the war tent when Danya got her hand chopped off, they also were like, okay, let us recognize Saeris as a warrior because she fought with us during that battle. And they all, like, cut their hands and put it on her chest as a symbol of respect. And that is the first time Kingfisher says her full name. And she's like, why haven't you said my full name until now? And he's like, I couldn't. Like, it was too painful. I hated you at first because you represented, like, my weakness, my vulnerability. And I called you Osha because the O'Shaleth is kind of like a butterfly. Like, they live and die really fast. And so she always was pissed that he was calling her that because she was weak and vulnerable and her life was so short that it was like a blink of an eye. He tells her that actually no, O'Shaleth means most sacred. He tells us that Fae travel to the place where the O'Shaleth hatch and that the conditions up there are so cold that some Fae die whenever they go up there. And they like protect the O'Shaleth whenever they hatch. And they get to see them. And they're like really beautiful. They sing songs. They wait for the O'Shaleth to mate. And then they die. And then that's when the Fae leave. But then a lot of Fae die in the process. Anyways, it's like a really special thing. So that's what he's been calling her. And she's like, damn, I am a bitch. She doesn't really know what to feel. She's a little shaken up by this whole thing. And she's like, what about those runes on me? Like, you took them away. What does that mean? And he's like, it means we are in the waiting period for the bond. So he like rejected the bond for now, which is why they left. But then if they decide that they wouldn't be together, then they will show back up and accept the bond. So anyways, she sleeps in the living room on a couch. She wakes up and he's sitting there and he's like really sad. They don't even say anything. She like walks away but then comes back and then walks away again. They meet up in the library with everybody. They have a little powwow on how they're gonna fix Everlayne. Renfis, Kingfisher, and Danya all decide to go to this one area where witches are to see if they can do some spell work on Everlayne and potentially Kingfisher. That's not really their goal right now, but like that would be a nice add. I don't think anybody really knows how bad the Kingfisher situation is. Like, his condition is not doing well. We find out that Kingfisher has essentially asked Renfis to kill him whenever he gets so bad. And that is when Saeris gets really pissed because she's like, you're gonna kill yourself? Well, also you're gonna be killing Lorreth, so I'm a little pissed at you. Like, you're just gonna give up, you're not even gonna try. You just decided all this without me. Like, you decided to not accept the bond. You knew all this, you didn't tell me. She's pissed. Understandably so. They fetch this one witch. She's like the most powerful witch. That's the Iseabail. So they got her. Everybody's gonna go to bed now. Saeris is like, okay, gotta sleep out in the living room again, I guess. And then Kingfisher's like, you're really not gonna sleep out here again, are you? And she's like, ugh, no. He's like, okay, let's just have one night together where we don't think about anything bad. We just enjoy each other's company. So he whisks them away to Ballard again, that little apartment that they were in. They have sex like 5 times. And she sucks his dick. So that's when you know it's real. He has new runes. Like, he has like a set of wings on his back or something. Okay, Sarah J. Maas. Anyways, she's like, how come you have those now? Like, I didn't get any new ones. What's up with that? And he's like, I accepted the bond. She's like, you did what now? And he's like, yeah, I accepted it. And she's like, okay, period. I just accepted it from my end, but like, don't feel pressured. She's kind of like freaking out. And he's like, I'm in love with you. Whoa. And he's like, what's a little complicated thrown into the mix? That's a badly written sentence, but okay. He's like, please don't say anything about this bond. I just want to tell you that I love you. Just don't say anything. It is almost midnight. Less than 100 pages left. I think I have to finish it, but I may just like update you guys tomorrow with the ending because I'm gonna be like immediately. So yeah, it's a couple days later. This ending is a little crazy. It's a little all over the place, so just bear with me while we try to describe what happens in the last 100 pages of this book. So buckle up, get ready to use your brain a little bit because it's gonna take some power to understand what's happening. Okay, so they fuck like 5 times. She goes to bed at some point and he's not there. She starts freaking the fuck out. She sees that he has left her a note. He's like, this may seem dramatic now, but it'll make sense in time, Saeris. Go through the gate. It'll take you back to college. Wait there with the others. I'll send Lane back as soon as I can. Tell Iseabail to sedate her the second she comes through the gate. She'll be close to transitioning. There won't be much time. She'll want to go back through the gate before I close it, so you'll have to be ready for that. You have to stop her. This will all be for nothing if she jumps back through. Tell Lorreth to live his life. Tell him not to worry about me. I have endless patience and no interest in having martyrs for friends. Tell Renfis that I'm sorry, that he was the standard that I always held myself to, and Yvelia would have been a better place if I was half as good as him. And you, Osha, I release you from your oath. You know how to make the relics now. She's made one. A selfish part of me wants to beg you to make as many as you can so that my friends and their families can escape Yvelia before this realm falls. He's so dramatic. This is so dramatic. Unnecessarily dramatic. But I understand if you need to go. Find Hayden and Elroy. Help your friends. Then go exploring. There are countless realms out there waiting to be found. Make one of them yours. I've never been one to trust in the gods, but I choose to believe that all things come from the same place when life begins. I have to hope that they return to the same place when it ends. I'll be waiting for you there, Saeris Fane. F. She cries, sob, because he essentially just went to just like, you know. And then she sees his sword. Ooh, he left his sword on purpose. So he went to Malcolm unarmed to try to get Everlayne. So, not good. Not good. She goes through the gate that leads back to his room. Carrion's there. He's startled by her appearance. She's like, where's everybody? And he's like, I don't know, in the library somewhere. He's like, don't you want to know what I'm reading? And she's like, oh, is it a book about me and prophecies about me and pictures of me that his mom wrote? And he's like, yeah, how'd you know that? Everybody reads the letter. They're all pissed. They got to come up with another plan to now save Everlayne and Fisher. Carrion is like, how long was the shadow gate open in Fisher's bedroom? Like, how long was it open after you came through? And she's like, I don't know, maybe like 10 seconds. Like, after she comes through, there's like a lag. There's a lagging issue with the shadow gate. So their plan is whenever Everlayne comes through, they're going to use that little lag time to like go into the shadow portal. So in this time, they're kind of just like prepping for Everlayne to get there, doing what they can in the meantime. And Carrion gets his own sword. And then after they're all settled, Carrion's got a sword. Pow, portal opens up in the ceiling this time. We've never seen that. Everlayne crashes through the ceiling, and then they're like, holy shit, we gotta go. We got 12 seconds, okay? How could they have prepared for this? They don't know where this portal is gonna open up. It could have been outside for all they know. And they have a 10-12 second window to get through. That's just impossible. Saeris is like, shit, I need to grab my sword. She grabs Solace, gets strapped in. They hoist Carrion up through the portal. I don't know why he goes first. He's definitely the least important in this mission. He goes first. Saeris goes next. She goes up into the ceiling, but then she like falls and there's water at the bottom. So she goes to the ceiling, but then she's falling into the water and she like breaks a couple ribs from the surface tension. Renfis didn't make it through because there wasn't enough time. So it's just Lorreth, Carrion, Saeris. Why is Carrion there? But at least he got his sword, I guess. Lorreth gives her some fucking herbs to chew on. And it's like, I don't know, like a Toradol shot. So it's like painkiller for a little bit. So I guess they're there in Sansaroth, like across the frozen lake where Malcolm is and everything. And Saeris hears that chanting, that Anarath Moor chant over and over and over again. They have to climb up into something, and then it's like an amphitheater. And there's like a fuck ton of dead people in this amphitheater, and they're all chanting Anarath Moor. Apparently, it means release me. I don't understand why Callie put this thing in the book. I just don't understand. So that's where the Anarath Moor thing came from. It's just these dead people shouting. Y'all, I don't fucking know. I'm trying to make sense of it. I can't. Hundreds of thousands of people begging to be released. But they're like burned. The whole structure of this scene is really confusing. Okay, so they got the amphitheater sitch with hundreds of thousands of dead people saying release us. They've got a labyrinth, over here off to the side. They got a raised dais. Is that how you say it?
How do you go about saying it? Dais.
Okay, apparently it's dais. Amphitheater of dead people, the dais. A labyrinth over here off to the side. A pit in the middle. Lorreth says, what in all five hells am I looking at? Great question, Lorreth. I don't know. I can't even picture this shit in my head. And guess who responds? Heron. The guard that she killed or tried to kill Saeris in the beginning. Why is he back? Couldn't fucking tell you. Why did he need to be resurrected? Couldn't tell you. But he's back. He's looking real rough. She's like, how's Heron in Yvelia? I don't think I mentioned this, but Fisher and Saeris now have the ability to speak into each other's minds. That is never explained. But they can hear each other's thoughts when they like intentionally speak to one another in their head. And she's like, we're here, Fisher, we're coming. And he's like, do not come here. He's like, prisoner on the ground in the dirt, hands behind his back, tied up, not looking too good, beat up. On the dais, she sees Madra up there with Malcolm and Belikon. So all three of them teamed up. And they're all sitting on the dais. Malcolm sees the three of them and they obviously are captured by Heron. So Malcolm is like, okay, Saeris, I know you. Lorreth, I know you too, but who's this one? And Carrion's like, Carrion doesn't let him finish. He's like, nah, I don't care. There's no magic in Sansaroth because I don't know. But there's no magic there, so just accept it, okay? And so we find out that Madra, Belikon, and Malcolm are all siblings. Apparently, Belikon has not been at war with Sansaroth. He's just been feeding Malcolm's army, like sending troops to go fight Sansaroth, but then Sansaroth just turns them into feeders. So you know how Fisher in the past like razed a whole city, burned it all to the ground, killed a bunch of people? Malcolm is like, tell your precious friends what you did here. Oh, that's right. You actually can't tell them what you did here, can you? So he releases him from his oath and then forces Fisher to tell everybody what the deal was that he struck with Malcolm like 100 years ago, whenever he was like gone and nobody could find him. So apparently they were at... Fisher somehow figured out that Belikon and Malcolm were in on it together, but he didn't know about the Queen Madra before today. Belikon admits to killing Fisher's mom. He says, your bitch of a mother was supposed to be the greatest oracle of our time, but she was useless. I admit it. As soon as she was done pushing out the brat I forced upon her, I slit the bitch's throat. I was sick of her fucking lies. Fisher's like, well, she can't lie because she's Fae, so that's really stupid. I wanted to bargain for the few citizens of Gilithry, and Belikon proposed a deal. He found a coin. He said if the coin hit the ground and landed leaf side up, Malcolm would call off his horde and leave the city without hurting another living thing. But if the coin hit the ground and landed fish side up, oh god, he would take the city as his own and destroy it, and I would have to leave all of those still alive to their deaths and meet him on the field of battle at a later date. I don't know what that means. Belikon says, you're leaving out all the best parts. He also wasn't allowed to touch the coin or influence the way it fell. While the coin toss was being decided, he wasn't allowed to harm me or my brother, and until the outcome of the coin toss had been decided, he wasn't allowed to speak of the deal or of the fact that Malcolm and I were brothers, and he agreed. That seems like an awful lot of conditions for while the coin is in the air to just immediately agree. But he agreed. He was so desperate to save a handful of peasants that he made the blood oath with me. So Belikon tossed the coin and Malcolm caught it, so the coin never hit the ground. And so he kept that coin hidden somewhere so it would never touch the damn ground. Okay, so Kingfisher was bound to this blood oath. And so then Kingfisher torched the whole city. He barricaded it and trapped everyone inside because Malcolm's horde had either bitten or killed everyone. They were transitioning right before our eyes. This place was home to nearly 200,000 high fae and lesser fae. If they were allowed to join Malcolm's horde, they would have swallowed the entire realm. So he torched them before they could, like, the army could grow exponentially, and then truly they would have, like, taken over everything. So then he created the most diabolically lethal labyrinth that he could conjure in his mind, and then hid Belikon's coin at the center, and then created a coliseum around it, filled the stands with the perpetually burning bodies of all the creatures our poor little bleeding heart here wanted to save. All he had to do to end their suffering was find the coin and make it fall to the ground. Obviously, it would be too late to save the Fae from death, but it would at least end their suffering. Madra ran her fingers along Fisher's jaw, wetting her bottom lip. Saeris is like, don't fucking touch him. She's like thrashing around because the guards are like holding her. Fisher's like, remove yourself from me or you won't like what happens next. She says, oh please, I hate to tell you this, but I can do anything to you that I want. Malcolm has always let me play with his toys. I play back. It might not be today, but oh, I am coming to find you, Madra. Fear the shadows, bitch. I'm made of them. One night soon, I'll climb out of one and slit your fucking throat. What a lucky girl I am. Madra feigned nonchalance, but I could see it, even from here, plain as day. Fisher's venom had shaken her a little. And what, pray tell, have I done to deserve such special attention from the likes of you? You spayed my mate when she was a fucking child. For that alone, I'll make your undying existence an unending agony. An eternity of suffering the likes of which even your evil mind cannot comprehend. You'll know no peace at my hands. I'll destroy your empire and erase your name from the annals of time. When I'm done with your legacy, Madra the Undying will never have existed. And you'll live on at my behest, suffering for all of eternity. And no one will know. And no one will care. His words rocked me. This makes Madra afraid. She's shaking in her boots. Back to the story. They just need to add that in there. Okay. Malcolm says, he entered my labyrinth and entertained us all for such a long time. I sent some of my other friends to play with him sometimes. From time to time, I'd visit him for myself. One day he made it to the center. I have to say I was shocked. How long did it take you, Fisher? 55 years? And he's like, yeah, 55 years. Malcolm's always calling Fisher his love. He's like, my love, Fisher. One day, Taladaius Knights was checking in on our Kingfisher, and he said that the ground shook so violently that the stone cracked beneath his feet and a hole appeared, and lo and behold, a secret. The quicksilver pool had been awakened. Kingfisher took one look down at this quicksilver pool, and Taladaius said that he dropped down into the hole and waded into it without a second thought. That's whenever he popped out Chamber of Secrets, got Saeris. I felt my father's sword calling to me, and I knew I'd need it for this. He runs over to Saeris really fast, grabs Solace, and stabs Belikon, alright, into his throat. He stabs him in his throat. He says, I don't need magic to mess you up, you fuck. This is for me, but mostly it's for my parents. Madra unleashed a blood-curdling scream and all hell broke loose. Why she screamed? I don't know. Because they're all immortal. So why would Kingfisher do that, for one? That is a really bad plan. Number two, why was Madra screaming? He was gonna be fucking fine. Like, it's just a bizarre plan that makes no sense. So they run, and Fisher tells them to run into the labyrinth. Heron is also immortal. Everybody's fucking immortal. He catches Saeris. She beats him and then snaps his neck. And apparently that kills him. That does him in. And so they run into the labyrinth. It starts moving around. Like, it changes, you know, it's like a maze. But like walls go up and it's shifting around. But, you know, Kingfisher, he's been in this labyrinth for 55 to 100 years. So he knows the way. Saeris is like, hey, Kingfisher, what's the plan? And he's like, you're my plan. And she's like, I don't know what that means, but okay. They find a monster. There's, you know, some trials within this labyrinth, so there's a monster in there. So it's like a giant centipede, but the front half was part fae. It's called Morthal. That really could have been put in the pronunciation guide. It can't see or hear, but it can track your movement. So their plan is to move really slowly along the wall. I don't know how that works. So the plan is that there is a quicksilver pool in the center of the labyrinth and that Saeris needs to find it so they know which way to go. So they are all freaked the fuck out by this crazy ass demon Morthal thing. And they're on the wall trying to make it by without attracting this demon thing. But they, of course, attract it. Lorreth stabs it and it, like, dies temporarily, but it'll respawn. So, don't get too comfy. Lorreth is like, how did you, like, survive in this thing for, like, so many years? Like, where'd you sleep? How did you eat? And, of course, Malcolm put a little spelly spell on the labyrinth and made it to where Fisher never has to sleep or eat. He can just do this the whole time. Carrion is just talking shit to Malcolm. Like, talking shit. He says, we might think Fisher's an arrogant ass, except there's a typo. So, arrogant is an arrogant ass. but we're not going to let you kill him. His tone was confident and devil-may-care, but I saw the way his hand shook as he pointed the tip of his sword to Belikon's head. We especially aren't going to let him be killed by a bastard who'd hand over his own daughter to be tortured and enthralled by a fucking vampire. Fisher's like, what the fuck is he doing? He's gonna get himself killed. She's like, I don't know, but he should stop. Belikon says, every trap needs a lure. Everlayne was born to serve my crown. If I deem it appropriate that she die to aid my cause, then she will fucking die. Carrion says, she won't die. Malcolm's venom is being drained from her as we speak. Soon the vampire taint will be lifted from her blood and he will no longer have any control over her. And she's like, Carrion, stop. Malcolm is like, yes, Carrion, stop. You know not who you insult. The playful light in his eyes had blinked out. He stepped off the mound of coins and floated down from it. Oh, so they made it to the center of the labyrinth now. Fisher says, Saeris, listen to me. The coins are fake. They have to be. The original coin that Belikon struck our deal with was made of silver. It burned Malcolm's hand when he caught it. He wouldn't even be able to stand on so many silver coins without them affecting him. So she's like, okay. And Kingfisher's like, the original coin would have had traces of quicksilver in it too, because the people of the city thought it was good luck. Do any of these coins contain quicksilver? And she's like, no. I don't even think they're made of metal. They're like an illusion. He's like, okay, then do you know what you gotta do? Like, you gotta go find this damn coin. Malcolm hissed, snake-like. As he pushed Carrion's sword away, he leaned into the thief, baring his fangs. What are you going to do to stop us? We are immortal. We are gods. You are just a human with shaky hands and a pig sticker. What would stop me from ripping your throat out right here where we stand? Carrion's eyes flitted to mine for a second. They held all manner of unspoken words. Then he lowered Simon, the sword, gave Malcolm his full attention, and said, nothing's stopping you. Go ahead, leech. Bite me and see where it gets you. And she says, Carrion, no! Malcolm swept around Carrion, face hideous with his hunger. His lips peeled back to reveal narrow, elongated fangs. Not just his canines. All of his teeth were sharpened to points. Carrion didn't even raise his hand to stop him. Head tipped back, he stared at the vampire defiantly as Malcolm snapped his head forward and sank his teeth into his throat. And she's like, we have to do something. Fisher's like, we can't do anything because he'll die if we try to pull him off. Malcolm snarled, sinking his teeth deeper into Carrion's neck. He was losing control, losing himself to his own bloodlust. His throat worked as he took Carrion's blood in great swallows. Frenzied, he withdrew his fangs. He was going to search for a better hold or a better vein, but then a look of surprise chased over his features. Malcolm rocked back on his heels, lip stained red, chin crinkling in an odd way as he frowned down at Carrion. He said, you. Carrion was deathly pale, but he grinned up at Malcolm like a lunatic. You should really have let me finish introducing myself earlier. It's rude to interrupt people. Because remember, he's like, Carrion Swift. He says, my name is Carrion Swift, but there was a time when I was known as Carrion Dianthus, firstborn son to Rurik and Amelia Dianthus. Malcolm began to shake. A violent convulsion racked through him. He says, you tricked me? You tricked me into drinking Dianthus blood? Okay, Callie, just like do whatever you want, okay? Just make whatever you want happen. Fisher and Laura said, holy fucking gods. She's like calling out to the quicksilver, and it's like, she's like, where are you, please? I need you. And they're like, not need, want. She's like, no, I need you. I need to save my friends. And it's like, a bargain then. She's like, no, no bargains. No tricks, no deals. And they're like, then why would we help? She says, because this is wrong. What they've done here is evil and you can end it. Evil and good are two sides of the same coin. There is always evil and there is always good. Yes, but look how much evil exists here. So much pain and death and suffering. Isn't it time for some good? For some balance? I love him. I can't bear for him to die. The Kingfisher. Yes, your mate. Yes, my mate. A small favor then. We'll do it for a favor. And for a restoration of balance. And for love, too. She's like, what kind of favor? It's like a small one. Shit. And then she's like, fine, whatever. I don't even fucking care what it is. Just fine. Then she comes face to face with Morthal again. Turns out the coin is inside of its body. Lovely. So I guess it's like in the back of its throat. She's sticking her hand down its throat, trying to get this coin. Luckily, it's still knocked out. And Malcolm says, you better give me that coin, girl. She says, The smell that came off of him was putrid. The stench of rotting meat left out in the sun for too long. Ew. She said whatever Carrion was, whatever Carrion had done, he had dealt Malcolm a tremendous blow. So Malcolm throws her and he just like beats her the fuck up. She was already not doing well. Fisher's like, do not lose consciousness. If you pass out now, you're dead. So she's like really trying to like stay awake. Oh, he's reading her runes on her body. I missed this part. He says earth, air, fire, water, salt, brimstone, quicksilver, the full gamut. More power than any alchemist I've ever encountered. You are capable of restoring me to my power and a lot more besides. Just kill me and be done with it. I won't help you. And he's like, really? She takes solace and he's like beating her up. She plunges solace into his throat and smoke and blood gush like a geyser from the wound. He says, okay, while he's dying, Malcolm punches her in the stomach and drives it upwards, which apparently this is a killing blow to Saeris. He says, please girl, die with some dignity. You can't kill me. I'm eternal. She gets the coin from him that he stole from her. Y'all, fuck. This is horrible. This is horrible. I'm so sorry. But I can't even explain it to you like in a normal way. Because it doesn't make any sense. She flipped the coin, but not high. And it fell, finally. She says, no, only the gods are eternal. And cut off his head. Amazing. Fisher finally gets back to her. Taladaius apparently is good. And Fisher's like, you're not gonna die. And Taladaius is like, yeah, she kind of is gonna die. It'll happen soon. Like, the damage to her stomach and chest cavity is too great. And Taladaius is like, if we don't act now, she's gonna pass in the next couple of minutes. And Fisher's like, I'll give her a part of my soul. And he's like, bitch, you already gave it away. You can't give it again. And he's like, I don't care. And Saeris is like, no, bitch. Don't give me your damn soul. I don't want that. She said, if you sacrifice yourself for me, I'll reject our bond in this life and the next. That's crazy. Anyways, Taladaius is like, Fisher, if you want me to act, you better tell me now, because she is literally about to croak, and it's gonna be too late. Fisher says this to Saeris. Tal was second only to Malcolm in power. He hid it from the king so he wouldn't kill him, but he can turn you. She's like, I don't want to be a feeder. He's like, you wouldn't be. You'd just be like Taladaius. She's like, I wouldn't die? Would I have to feed? He's like, I don't know. Fuck. So Taladaius says, tell me she fucking consents. And Fisher says, she consents. So, Saeris is now going to be a vampy. Alright. Gotta get her up here, or else she's going to knock the tripod over. Y'all, what the fuck is this ending? Okay. So, the amphitheater starts falling in, like caving in. Carrion's like, form a shadow gate. Fisher, come on. He's like, I'm trying. Taladaius says, it's starting. Saeris' transformation. The voice came again, like the quicksilver voice. It says, you stand before a door. Your hand is poised to knock. Are you ready to walk through it? Will you leave this place and see what lies beyond in the next? She's like, no, I don't want to go. I just became a vampire because I didn't want to leave. It says, a shadow falls across Yvelia. It will alter all it touches. You would rather remain here knowing that suffering and hardship looms on the horizon, that sacrifices will need to be made? And she's like, yeah. He says, as you wish. Then we call in our favor, Saeris Fane. Will you honor your word and grant us a favor? And she's like, what do you want? And it says, we require an audience with you. Will you grant us our favor? And she's like, yes. And she is ripped from Fisher's arms. And she's like, please no, stop. But, I mean, she already said yes. And so she wakes up and there's two people and they're like, it's dead. The other one is like, don't be ridiculous. Of course it isn't dead. And so she wakes up. Turns out she's in the god land or something. This is when the ending gets really crazy, okay? So, in Zilvaren, they have two sons, okay? And they call them the twins. They also have the same gods in Yvelia. I just didn't mention it because I didn't think it was very important. I just thought it was some lore. But there's a scene when she first gets to Yvelia where Everlayne walks her through this little hallway, and it's a bunch of statues of different gods that they have, like 7 gods, I think. 2 of them are like 2 twin girls. They are called Baal and Mithrin. Anyways, that's who is talking to her right now. Baal and Mithrin, the twin girls in God land. And they say, tell us what it's like. Tell you what's like. And they're like, sex with Kingfisher. Like, what? You are fucking gods. But okay. We wanted to try him out for ourselves, but Father forbade it. Whatever. They're like, our daddy wants to talk to you. And this is the god of chaos and change. And he's like, come forward, alchemist. You know who I am? She's like, yeah, you're Zereth, god of chaos. And he's like, and you are Saeris. And they're like, great, then why are we even having this fucking talk? Also the mate to my champion. She's like, yeah, I guess if Fisher's your champion, then I guess you could say that I am the mate to your champion. Zereth, the god of chaos, says, we must make this quick, or you'll die before you've been of use to me. I'll be as concise as I can. I've spent a great deal of time watching the threads of the universe waiting for one such as you, an alchemist, at last, to reset the balance and clear the way for what's to come. Here we stand at the edge of the universe. The roots you see growing down into the earth, into the quicksilver, are the anchors of fate. My family are the stewards of all what you see here. We water the roots of fate. We prune the leaves to prevent rot and decay. You see this little area here, the blackened one? And she's like, yeah, I see it. And he's like, yeah, there's a rot spreading throughout my domain, Saeris. Realms that are affected with the rot have to be summarily destroyed to protect the rest of the tree and prevent that rot from spreading. Do you understand? She's like, yeah. Oh my god, give me a scratching me. Stop. That hurts so bad. So it's giving Loki, you know, they're pruning dimensions. He just like kind of swats some dead foliage off. And she's like, how many people was that? And he's like, billions. She's like, oh. He says, obviously you're not the only alchemist in the universe. There's millions, even in your realm, even in the city. There's like hundreds of elemental magic wielders who can command the quicksilver. When I consulted the fates, I was very intrigued when I saw you and Kingfisher. I saw an axis in the flow of things, a burning knot in the tapestry of all that would come to be. When I focused and saw the strength of the bond that connected the two of you together, I admit I attempted to sway the fates. He said, you are supposed to have been born Fae in the same realm as Kingfisher, so I separated you, placed you far away in a realm that should have never come into contact with him. But then he saw that fate would always bring them together. And she's like, why would you want to keep us apart? Apparently, he says, threads like you and Kingfisher that are drawn together and cross on an axis create a well of power. The energy the two of you draw together attracts an equal and opposite counterweight. Every possible future where the two of you are together ends with the vast majority of this tree dying. So you're saying that Fisher and I are responsible for the end of the entire universe? He's like, not you personally, but in the moment where you meet, along with the moment you become mates, is a spark. A flame in the dark that draws the moth. She's like, does Fisher know? You talk to him? And he's like, no, I orchestrated things so that he would be brought here as a young male. Okay, so I guess whenever Fisher fell into the quicksilver as a child and they were talking about how he like made a bargain, I guess he went straight up to Zereth, whatever, and talked to him about stuff. The god binding that she has, he said, these oaths mark you as my ward. They protect you and Fisher from unwanted attention from my brother and sisters. And she's like, protection? And he's like, yeah, they'd rather kill Fisher and roll the dice on what comes next. They would prefer to weather the storm on the horizon and replant our tree once the slate has been wiped clean. I don't want that to happen. It would break my daughter's hearts because this is like their reality TV show. And he's like, for them, I'm willing to take a chance. If you truly accept Fisher as your mate, then you must agree for the thread of your life to be severed from the tapestry of the universe. Once you do, none of us may affect your future. We won't be able to see you, but nor will my brothers and my sister be able to interfere with timelines or events that affect you either. You'll be on your own. They were like, she's like, how would you cut this thread? You know, like, how would you do that? And he's like, by transforming you into something that's never been seen before. The universe cannot focus on that which it does not recognize. But how? I'm not just the god of chaos, alchemist. I'm also the god of change. I will it and it's done. Time is running out, Saeris. You must make your decision. Okay, alright, yes, I'll do it. He says, best of luck, and shoved her into the quicksilver. She wakes up in this room, and Taladaius is there. She goes and looks in the mirror, and she's like, oh, I'm like Fae? Oh, and I'm like a vampire? So she's half Fae, half vampire now. Taladaius is like, how do you feel? And she's like, part of me wants to like thank you for saving my life, but part of me wants to like kill you for what you've done. He's like, I get that. I felt the same way. There were centuries where I hated what I'd become and I wanted to destroy Malcolm. I wanted nothing but to die, to be gone from this world so badly. Now we get a little bit about Carrion, alright? Carrion is now Fae. He's got the ears, he's got the teeth, and he's really tall now. And she punches him in the chest and she's like, you're an asshole. I've known you since I was 15. He's like, okay, I've known you since I was 1,086. Do I win a prize? She said, you didn't tell me that you were heir to a fucking Fae throne. He's like, well, it's hardly something you just tell people. And anyway, my grandma made me promise not to. So he explains that Kingfisher's dad brought him to Zilvaren whenever he was little to save him from Belikon. He glamoured his ears and your canine so you wouldn't stand out. Bought a bag of books with him so you could learn about your heritage and return when the time was right. And she's like, oh, okay. And then you just spent the next 1,000 years living in Zilvaren? He's like, yeah. Everlayne is fine. She's in a coma. Apparently with the work of Léna and Iseabail together, Kingfisher's quicksilver is dissipating and he's like getting less crazy, so he's gonna live and be fine. Apparently the reason Carrion's blood was poisoned to Malcolm is because his dad's blood was used to create the blood curse that allowed Malcolm to become a vampire, and that a vampire can't drink from the living members of the bloodline that created them, nor can they enthrall them. They're just making up rules. He said that drinking from you should have killed Malcolm instantly, but because he had lived for so long, he was too powerful. Okay. Alright, whatever. So, Belikon killed Carrion's parents. Carrion's like, I barely remember them. And Fisher's like, I do. And Carrion's like, are you going to tell me about my parents? Or are you going to start, like, fucking? He's like, no, we're going to start fucking. Carrion's like, cool. So she's in this room, but all the curtains are closed. And Taladaius is like, okay, Fisher wants to tell you where we are. Fisher comes in. He opens the thing, and she sees that ice lake that they were fighting on before between where Malcolm was and they were. She sees that, but they're on the wrong side of the lake. They're in Sansaroth / Amontriath, where Malcolm was king. And she's like, what? Fisher dropped some Fae legal system info on us. It says in the Fae courts, the crown is passed down to a regent's heir, but if the regent's murdered, the crown is claimed by the one who slew them. The vampire court has only ever had one king. Malcolm never named an heir because he thought he was going to live forever. So, apparently in 2 days' time, she officially becomes the new queen of Sansaroth. And that's how the book ends. So, that's the end of that weird-ass book. I can't believe it has taken me so long to explain these last 100 pages because it just makes simply no fucking sense. So the ending for me falls a little flat. Other general thoughts I have on this book. The editing in this book, I don't know if there was any. Normally, I don't really care about that stuff because I'm really bad at grammar, but there were some like obvious grammar mistakes and spelling mistakes, and I was like, can you not just run this bitch through Word and like make sure? Or like Grammarly at the least. It like was so unedited to the point where I was like, this is just lazy. It was really, really long. A little bit too long for my liking. I really messed up by not seeing how long this book was before starting this vlog, because I don't think I would have done it if I knew that it was like almost 700 pages. Because that is a crazy amount to explain, especially considering it's a romantasy fantasy book. Yeah, I'm giving this book a 3. In the beginning, I was like, this is probably gonna get a 2, but there were some things I like kind of enjoyed. I do think it got me out of my reading slump, so that's good. I really like a fated mates trope, but I hate when they call each other mate, like refer to them as my mate. That's disgusting to me. It's a solid 3. I enjoyed it for the most part. It made me laugh a lot. I laughed a lot while reading this. That's always a good sign for me. I actually think the majority of people who like romantasy would love this. It really, truly is every single popular romantasy swirled up into one book. Like, it is so ACOTAR, it is so Fourth Wing, it is literally all of them. Originality, to me, does not really matter. To me, everything is derivative. Art is derivative. And if you take a bunch of things and you put it all together into one thing, that is a new original piece. Just because you take from other things and put it together, nobody's ever put that combination together. So to me, that is originality. Like, nothing is ever like truly original. So you're never gonna get points really knocked off for that with me. So yeah, wow. Thanks for staying this long because I know this video is gonna be so long. If you enjoyed it, I think you should subscribe right now. Like, I think you should stick around and, like, see what's next. If you loved it, if you hated it, if you agreed with me, disagreed with me, I want to know. We can talk about it and discuss. That's my favorite part of reading. I'll catch y'all in my next one.